When someone underestimates you, when someone chooses to walk away or decides that your presence no longer matters to them, it's not a reflection of who you are. It's a reflection of the frequency they are tuned into at that moment. Every human being is like a broadcasting station, constantly sending out signals through their thoughts, emotions, and actions. Those signals are vibrations, and life responds to them with matching frequency. When she couldn't recognize your value, it wasn't because the value didn't exist. It was because her vibration wasn't aligned with it. You see, people can only perceive what they are ready to perceive. They can only recognize what they have tuned themselves to see. That means even if you are overflowing with potential, grace, and power, someone living at a lower level of awareness might completely miss it. They'll walk away thinking they've seen everything there is to see, not realizing they've only scratched the surface of what you truly are. Think about how a radio works. If you're tuned into one station, you can't hear the music playing on another frequency, even though it's broadcasting right now in the same space at the same time. If she was tuned into a station of doubt, fear, or small-mindedness, she couldn't possibly pick up on the frequency of your vision, your discipline, and your potential. She wasn't rejecting you. She was rejecting her own ability to receive what you represent. That's why you cannot take it personally. You cannot make her limited perspective your reality, because when your energy is aligned with growth, with becoming more, with stepping into your purpose, sooner or later, the contrast will make itself obvious. She will realize what she turned away from. She will feel the absence of the very thing she couldn't recognize while she had it. Energy attracts energy. This is not just some poetic idea. It's a law that governs every area of life. If you are holding yourself at a higher standard, pouring your heart into your craft, committing to self-discipline, building your mind, strengthening your spirit, the energy you carry begins to shift. That shift is magnetic. People feel it when you walk into a room. They sense it in your words, in your presence, in your silence even. That's the kind of energy people can't fake. And it's also the kind of energy people regret not valuing. Because when you raise your frequency, the distance between who you are becoming and who they are choosing to remain becomes undeniable. She might not have believed in your dream, but that doesn't mean the dream was small. It simply means she didn't have the capacity to see beyond the present moment. Many times in life, people regret not because of what they saw, but because of what they failed to see. They regret overlooking the hidden potential, the seeds of greatness, the quiet fire burning inside someone. And when those seeds bloom, when that fire becomes undeniable, regret becomes the natural response. That's why your role is not to convince, not to argue, not to beg anyone to recognize your worth. Your role is to align yourself so completely with the energy of your highest self that those who left have no choice but to feel the distance later. There is a reason why so many success stories share the same pattern: first ignored, then doubted, then resisted, and finally admired. That cycle happens because people operate on different levels of energy, and they can only recognize in others what exists within themselves. So when she left, it wasn't the end. It was simply a mismatch of frequencies. And as you continue to grow, as you continue to expand your vision, that mismatch will become so stark that the regret will come naturally. Not because you set out to make anyone regret, but because truth eventually exposes itself. Energy cannot lie. Now understand this clearly. The moment someone chooses to leave, the universe opens the door for alignment. It gives you the space to redirect your focus, to pull your energy back from places it wasn't being valued and reinvested into yourself. And every ounce of energy you reinvest in yourself compounds. It grows your confidence. It strengthens your clarity. It magnifies your presence. That's the moment where the tables begin to turn. Because while she might be stuck replaying old thoughts and old emotions, you are creating new realities, raising her vibration, becoming a person she won't even be able to fully comprehend anymore. And that gap between where you are and where she thought you would be is what gives birth to great. The truth is, no one can walk away from you unless they first walk away from themselves. To reject someone who's growing, who is aligning with abundance, who is constantly seeking to improve, is to reject the very energy of progress. And progress is magnetic. Eventually, that energy calls out to them. It whispers in moments of silence, in times when they're alone, when they scroll through memories or hear your name mentioned by someone else. The vibration of your growth will reach them even when you're not around. And that's when regret strikes, not in the loud moments of life, but in the quiet, private moments when reality sinks in. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to plan for it. It's simply the way energy works. What goes out always comes back. What is undervalued in one season becomes priceless in another once it's gone. Your job is only to keep rising, to keep vibrating at the frequency of your vision, because energy attracts energy. And sooner or later, the mismatch will reveal itself so clearly that she will have no choice but to realize what she turned away from. And that realization will be the very definition of regret. The way you see yourself sets the tone for how the entire world interacts with you. Self-worth is like the foundation of a building. If it is weak, everyone on top will eventually crumble. But if it is strong, nothing can shake it. When someone doubts you, dismisses you, or chooses to walk away, the truth is they're only responding to the energy you carry about yourself. If you allow their perception to define you, you begin to shrink. You begin to question your own value, and you start living from their limitations instead of your own potential. But the moment you build an unshakable belief in yourself, the game changes entirely. Suddenly, the opinions of others don't carry the same weight, and life begins to mirror the confidence, strength, and certainty that you carry internally. She may have left because she didn't see your worth, but when you see it, when you embody it, the world reflects it back to you, and regret belongs to the one who couldn't recognize it first. Self-worth is not about arrogance or ego, it's about awareness. It's about recognizing that you were born with infinite potential, that the very same power that moves through the universe flows through you. Most people never tap into this truth, and because they don't, they live small lives, projecting their doubts onto others. When she underestimated you, it wasn't because you had no value. It was because she hadn't developed the awareness to see it. People cannot see in you what they have not yet awakened within themselves. And if you don't have a strong sense of self-worth, you'll start to believe their blindness. You'll start to doubt your own gift. That's why the most important work you can ever do is on yourself, on your belief, on your image, on your self-concept. Because when you know your worth, you stop needing anyone else to validate it. Think about it. Every successful person who's ever achieved greatness had a moment when others didn't believe. They had moments of rejection, of being overlooked, of being doubted, but they kept their self-worth intact. They kept telling themselves, I am worthy of this vision. I am worthy of success. I am worthy of love, respect, abundance. And because they carried that vibration, eventually the world had no choice but to recognize it. Self-worth creates the future. When you decide to hold yourself to a higher standard, the universe rearranges itself to meet you there. And in that process, those who left, those who couldn't see your value, those who thought they could walk away without consequence will realize that they miscalculated. Their regret comes when they see the life you built on the foundation of your self-belief. There's something magnetic about someone who knows their worth. They don't chase, they don't beg, they don't force, they attract, they command respect, not by demanding it, but by embodying it. They set boundaries because they understand that their time and energy are precious. They carry themselves with quiet confidence because they know who they are and where they're going. That's why when someone leaves a person of high self-worth, the absence hits them harder later. At first, they may not notice. They may even think they've gained freedom. But with time, they begin to realize that people with deep self-worth are rare. They realize they walked away from something that cannot easily be replaced. And that realization is where regret is born. The beautiful thing about self-worth is that it doesn't just shape how others treat you. It shapes the opportunities you attract. When you know you deserve more, you begin to move differently. You stop settling for scraps. You stop clinging to what's convenient, and you start aligning with what matches your value. That could be in business, in relationships, in health, in every dimension of life. You begin to carry yourself like someone who deserves abundance. And because energy responds to energy, abundance starts flowing toward you. And as your life transforms, those who underestimated you, those who thought they could leave without loss, are faced with the reality of what they gave up. People often regret not because of what you were at the time, but because of who you became after they left. They remember the version of you that they dismissed, but when they see the upgraded version, the confident, disciplined, focused, thriving you, they realize that the person they doubted was only the seed of the greatness that was about to bloom. And in that contrast, regret becomes inevitable. The only reason you reach that point, though, is because you chose to believe in yourself when they didn't. You chose to see your worth when it wasn't being validated. You chose to invest in yourself, build your skills, grow your mindset, and expand your vision. That choice is what turns rejection into fuel, doubt into determination, and loss into gain. The truth is, no one else can give you worth. They can affirm it, they can acknowledge it, but they cannot create it. Worth comes from within. And once you understand that, once you truly embody it, no rejection can shake you, no departure can break you. Because you know that your value is constant. It doesn't increase when someone notices it, and it doesn't decrease when someone ignores it. It simply is. And the longer you live from that truth, the more life rewards you with evidence of it. That's when she looks back and realizes the difference. That's when she sees the life you've built, the energy you carry, the people who now surround you, and she feels the weight of what she couldn't appreciate. That's when the regret sets in. Not because you needed her to see it, but because you didn't. You saw it for yourself, and that made all the difference. Timing is one of the greatest illusions that human beings live under. We often think that we can wait forever, that opportunities will always be there, that people will always remain the same. But the truth is, life is in constant motion. Nothing stays still. Every day you are either growing or decaying, moving forward or falling behind. When someone fails to value you in the present moment, when she thinks she can take her time, when she believes you will remain the same version of yourself forever, she is deceiving herself with the illusion of time. Because as you rise, as you continue to evolve into your purpose, what she thought would always be available slowly moves out of her reach. And when that realization strikes, it doesn't come with joy. It comes with regret. People often regret not in the moment they leave, but in the moment they look back and realize how much has changed. What was once familiar now feels distant. What they once took for granted has now transformed into something they can no longer claim. That's the way the universe works. It never stops moving. The opportunity of today is not the same tomorrow. The version of you she thought she knew is not the version of you that exists now. The man or woman she walked away from is not the one she would meet again, because growth changes everything. And when you choose to focus on your vision, when you choose discipline, progress, and expansion, you are no longer available to the same people in the same way. The tragedy for those who don't recognize value in time is that they always realize it too late. She may have thought she had forever to decide. She could come back at any point and find you waiting. But the truth is, as you rise, the door quietly closes behind you. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but because life at a higher level doesn't operate at the same frequency as the past. Timing is everything. The people who see value in you while you are still building are the ones who reap the rewards of standing with you when the vision manifests. But those who wait, those who hesitate, those who look away and return later, face the painful lesson of regret. Think about how the seasons work. If a farmer fails to plant in spring, there is no harvest in autumn. It doesn't matter how much he wishes, how much he regrets. The timing of the season has passed. The soil won't wait. The cycle of nature doesn't stop because someone wasn't ready, and the same applies to people and opportunities. When she dismissed you, when she doubted your potential, she missed her season to plant faith, loyalty, and belief in you. Later, when the harvest of your discipline comes, when your life begins to overflow with success, abundance, and growth, she may want to return, but the season has already shifted, and that shift creates the deep sting of regret. There is something powerful about time that most people overlook. It magnifies the decisions we make. A small choice today becomes a massive outcome years from now. Walking away may have felt small in the moment, but over time, as you grow, as energy multiplies, as your worth becomes undeniable, that small decision grows into a massive regret. Because the gap between who you were and who you have become widens with every passing day. And the further you rise, the more obvious it becomes what she missed out on. Timing has a way of exposing the weight of decisions. When you are aligned with your purpose, time becomes your ally. Every day compounds. Every effort, every sacrifice, every lesson builds upon itself until you become unrecognizable to the people who once underestimated you. They thought you would stay the same, but time reveals the truth. You were always in motion, always evolving, always stepping into a greater version of yourself. And while you grow, they remain the same, stuck in old patterns, replaying old memories, and looking back at the moment they let go of someone who was only going to rise. That's where the regret is born. Not because you wished it upon them, but because they can no longer the reality of what time has created. It's easy for someone to dismiss you when they only see your current state, when they look at you through the lens of the present. But they forget that potential grows, that seeds blossom, that time transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. Many people regret not what they saw, but what they failed to imagine. She didn't imagine the strength you would build. She didn't imagine the confidence you would carry. She didn't imagine the success you would create. And when those things unfold, when the unseen becomes seen, regret takes its place because she realizes she miscalculated. She thought time was on her side, but time has always been on yours. That's why you cannot be distracted when someone doubts you. You cannot allow their lack of vision to slow your pace, your growth, your discipline. Your commitment are all investments. That time will multiply. And when those results show up, when the life you envision becomes the life you live, regret belongs to those who waited too long to see your worth. Because timing doesn't pause. It doesn't wait. It doesn't repeat itself. The window that was open once is not open forever. And those who don't act in alignment with value always look back, wondering how they could have missed it. Wishing they had recognized it sooner, feeling the weight of what can never be reclaimed. Life operates by laws that are unbreakable, laws that govern the unseen just as much as gravity governs the physical. One of those laws is the law of compensation, and it never fails. The law of compensation says that whatever you lose, whatever is taken from you, whatever is denied, is always returned in another form, often greater than what was lost. When someone leaves you, when she chooses not to see your value, when she underestimates your worth, it can feel in the moment like a loss, like something has been taken from you. But the law of compensation ensures that you will never truly lose what belongs to you. Whatever energy you poured into that connection, whatever love, whatever loyalty, whatever belief you gave, it all comes back multiplied in another place, another person, another opportunity. That is why she will regret, because while she chose to step away, life is already preparing to compensate you with something better. You cannot outgive the universe. Every act of sincerity, every effort of discipline, every ounce of commitment that seemed wasted is in truth being stored up, waiting for the right time to return. And it never returns empty. It always comes back with interest. That's how the law of compensation works. You may not see it immediately, but as long as you continue moving forward, as long as you don't let bitterness close your heart, that law will bring balance. And while you rise in your compensation, she faces the realization that what she walked away from is no longer available. The regret doesn't come from the fact that you fell apart. It comes from the fact that you didn't. It comes from the fact that life elevated you higher while she was left to face the emptiness of her own decision. The law of compensation is always fair. If you were genuine, if you gave with a clean heart, if you stayed true to your principles, there is no such thing as loss. You might think you lost time. You might think you lost energy. You might think you lost love, but none of it is wasted. It circulates back in ways you could never predict. That's why you must never resent those who leave. Their departure is part of the balance. They may think they got the better end of the decision. They may believe they walked away without cost. But the truth is, life always settles accounts. What you give returns to you. What they dismiss eventually returns to them as regret. Think of it like planting seeds. If you plant in good soil, water consistently, and tend to the ground, you may not see immediate results. It might look like nothing is happening, like all your effort is wasted. But beneath the surface, life is at work. Roots are spreading, energy is building, growth is preparing to break through. And when the harvest finally comes, it far outweighs the work you put in. That's how your life works when people walk away from you. The seeds of your discipline, your persistence, your vision are already in the ground. She might not have stayed to see them bloom, but bloom they will. And when they do, you will be compensated for every single moment you thought was wasted. The regret will always belong to the one who didn't see your worth, because the law of compensation gives back to the one who invests in themselves, not the one who abandons the investment. When she chose to leave, she forfeited a share in the harvest. That's why you don't need to chase. You don't need to convince. You don't need to beg anyone to recognize your value. Your role is simply to keep planning, keep building, keep moving in alignment with growth. The law will take care of the rest. And when your life begins to flourish, when opportunities begin to open, when abundance begins to pour in, she will remember. She will remember the moments when you gave freely, when you stood with loyalty, when you offered something real. She will realize that she miscalculated, that she underestimated what was in her hands. And that realization is where regret lies. Compensation is not just about money or success. It's about energy, fulfillment, love, respect, peace of mind. Whatever was not you in one area comes back multiplied in another. You may lose a relationship, but you gain clarity, strength, and alignment. You may lose time, but you gain wisdom and vision. You may lose companionship, but you gain independence and resilience. And all of these qualities build a version of you that is unshakable, a version of you that attracts better, lives better, and thinks better. And as you step into that version, the person who left realizes that their departure didn't stop you and activated you. And nothing creates regret more than watching someone thrive without you. That's the beauty of the law of compensation. It makes sure the scales are balanced. If you've been wronged, you don't have to fight back. If you've been overlooked, you don't have to prove yourself. If you've been doubted, you don't have to argue. The law ensures that life pays you back, often in ways that are far greater than what you thought you lost. And the more you lean into growth, the more you lean into discipline, the more abundant the compensation becomes. She will regret it not because you wished her pain, but because the universe always highlights the imbalance, always exposes what was dismissed, and always elevates the one who stayed true. When you live your life chasing the approval of others, you hand over your power. You start bending who you are. You start shrinking your vision. You start compromising your standards just to gain acceptance. But the truth is, no matter how much you try to win people over, you will never truly satisfy everyone. There will always be someone who doubts you, who underestimates you, who doesn't see your worth. That's why the focus can never be on chasing approval. It has to be on the vision of the person you are becoming. Vision is the compass, the anchor, the guiding force that keeps you moving forward when opinions swirl around you. If you live for their applause, you'll die by their silence. But if you live for your vision, nothing can stop you from becoming who you were meant to be. And when you get there, those who left, those who doubted, those who couldn't see, will live with the regret of their short-sightedness. The human spirit was designed to grow. You can feel it in your gut when you're not living up to your potential, when you're holding back, when you're living small. That discomfort is not punishment, it's guidance. It's the whisper of your vision pulling you forward, telling you there is more within you, more for you, more waiting ahead. And when you obey that vision, when you make decisions not based on what people think, but on where you're going, you begin to create momentum. That momentum transforms you. People might laugh at the early stages. They might muck you when you're just starting out. They might call you unrealistic, but vision has nothing to do with the present. It has everything to do with the future. And those who cannot see beyond today will always underestimate you. That's why later, when the results show, when the dream becomes reality, the regret sets in. Because what they doubted was not your ability, but their own inability to see the vision you carried. There is a power in holding on to a vision so clearly that it pulls you through every obstacle. When the nights get long, when the rejection stings, when the loneliness of the journey sets in, your vision becomes the fuel that keeps you moving. And with every step forward, you carve out a new version of yourself, soft, stronger, wiser, more resilient. That version is unrecognizable compared to the one they dismissed. They thought you were ordinary, but the vision you carried was extraordinary. They thought you would stay where you were, but the vision refused to let you remain the same. And when you rise into that new version, those who left cannot help but look back with regret because they realize they never believed in what was destined to happen all along. Chasing approval weakens you because it ties your worth to someone else's perception. But chasing vision strengthens you because it ties your worth to your purpose. Purpose doesn't change when people leave. Purpose doesn't diminish when people doubt. Purpose doesn't vanish when people ignore it. It remains steady, waiting for you to align with it. And once you do, once you make the vision bigger than the pain, bigger than the rejection, bigger than the loneliness, you become unstoppable. That's when regret belongs to others, not to you. Because you didn't let their opinion define your reality. You let your vision do that. Every great leader, every innovator, every success story in history had moments when nobody else could see the vision. They stood alone, laughed at, doubted, criticized, but they kept building. They kept their eyes fixed on what was coming, not on what people thought in the moment. And in the end, the world celebrated what they created, while those who doubted were left with the bitter taste of regret. That same principle applies to you. If you stay locked in on who you are becoming, if you refuse to be distracted by who doesn't believe, your time will come. And when it does, the people who underestimated, you will wish they had believed sooner. Vision over emotion means you don't make decisions based on temporary feelings. Emotions can lead. They fluctuate. They react to circumstances. They rise and fall with the day. But vision is steady. It doesn't change with moods. If you allow your emotions to dictate your actions, you'll give up the moment it gets hard. You'll quit the moment someone leaves. You'll stop the moment you don't feel motivated. But if you let vision lead, you'll keep moving even when it hurts. You'll keep going even when you're misunderstood. You'll keep building even when you're doubted. And that consistency compounds. Over time, it creates results so undeniable that regret is the only response from those who couldn't see it. You must understand that your life is not about convincing anyone to believe in you. It's about proving yourself right. It's about aligning so fully with your vision that nothing else matters. Because when you finally arrive, when you live the life you imagine, when you embody the strength, success, and peace you work for, the contrast between who you were and who you've become is impossible to ignore. And in that contrast, regret is born, not in your heart, but in hers, because she doubted it was always destined to be. Regret is a heavy weight because it belongs to the past. It comes from looking backward, replaying choices, and realizing what can never be undone. Power, however, doesn't exist in the past. It exists in the present. Every single moment you live is an invitation to create, to decide, to move forward. That's the difference between you and her. She will regret because her eyes will be fixed on what she lost, on the opportunity she didn't take, on the value she didn't see. You will prosper because your eyes are fixed forward on what you're building, on the future you're stepping into, on the version of yourself you're becoming. Regret is chained to memory, but power flows through creation. The more you choose creation, the less her departure defines you, and the more her memory becomes her own burden to carry. Most people live by memory. They let their past dictate how they feel today. They let old failures, old wounds, old stories run the present decisions. And because of that, they keep recreating the same cycle, stuck in patterns that never change. But those who live by vision, those who decide to focus on what can be instead of what was, operate at a higher level of awareness. They understand that the past cannot be altered, but the future can be shaped. That's why regret has no hold over you when you live in creation. It cannot stick to you because you're not anchored in what's behind, you're anchored in what's ahead. Meanwhile, she will carry regret because every time she looks back, the gap between what you were and what you've become grows wider, and that distance is impossible to erase. The truth is, regret and power cannot coexist. You cannot live in regret and create at the same time. One keeps you frozen. The other keeps you moving. One drains your energy. The other multiplies it. When she walked away, she might have thought she gained freedom. She might have thought she had time. But what she really chose was a life anchor to looking back. Every achievement you gain, every milestone you hit, every level you rise to becomes another reminder of what she didn't value. That's the essence of regret. It's not just about what was lost. It's about what continues to grow without you. You, on the other hand, step into power by refusing to let her decision define your identity. Instead of replaying the loss, you redirect your focus. You pour into your craft, into your discipline, into your mind, into your growth. And every bit of energy you invest in the present compounds. The longer you stay present, the more powerful you become. You stop being someone who is defined by what happened to you, and you become someone defined by what you choose to create. That shift is what makes regret irrelevant for you and inevitable for her. Think of it like driving a car. If you stare at the rearview mirror the whole time, you'll crash because your focus is behind you. But if you keep your eyes on the road ahead, you navigate obstacles, you move forward, you arrive at destinations others only dream about. That's how life works. She will keep glancing in the rearview mirror, reliving the moment she left, replaying the version of you she dismissed. And the more she looks back, the heavier the regret grows. But you are watching the road ahead, and every mile you cover widens the gap until the version she remembers no longer exists. There's another truth about regret. It doesn't just live in memory. It steals from the present. When someone is stuck regretting, they are unable to fully live where they are. They can't appreciate new experiences. They can't build new connections fully because part of them is trapped in what they lost. That's why regret is one of the most painful emotions. It robs both the past and the present. And the more you rise, the deeper that regret digs into her. But power, when you live in the present, expands everything. It magnifies your experiences. It multiplies your opportunities. It strengthens your resilience. The more you create, the freer you feel, and the less the past can ever hold you. Living by creation means you stop asking, what if? and you start asking, what now? You stop wishing for a different story and you start writing a new one. You stop replaying what they did and you start focusing on what you're going to do next. And every time you choose what now, you break another chain of the past. You gain another layer of strength. You step deeper into power. And that power is what makes you untouchable by regret. While she is anchored to yesterday, you are building tomorrow. While she is trapped in memory, you are expanding into possibility. While she is weighed down by what she lost, you are lifted by what you're creating. This is the ultimate contrast. Regret keeps her looking backward at the door she closed. Power keeps you looking forward at the doors opening before you. The more you create, the less her memory matters and the more her regret deepens. Because the truth is, time doesn't stand still for anyone. If she didn't value you when she had the chance, if she couldn't see the vision when it was in her hands, then life moves forward without her. And when it does, the regret belongs to her and the power belongs to you.